I'm trying to get something done in the here and now in the world that we live in right now. That's why when we talk about public interest, things that the FCC can do, I think it's easier to make that down payment than wait for Congress to do something. For traditional media that remain so critical to our news and information, the Federal Communications Commission should conduct a public value test of every broadcast station at relicensing time, which, by the way, I think should occur every 4 years in lieu of the slam dunk, no questions asked, 8-year renewals that we dispense 100% of the time right now. If a station passes the public value test, of course it keeps its license. It has earned its license to serve the people's interests. If not, put it on probation for a year, maybe renewable for an additional year if it makes some progress. But if the station fails again, give that license to someone who will use it to serve the public interest. Political advertising disclosure. When the accounting is completed from this last election cycle, as I said, we'll find that nearly $3 billion was spent on media advertising. We, the people, have no idea who paid for this political carpet bombing. But we, the people, have a right to know who's bankrolling these ads beyond that little line down there that has some wholly uninformative and vapidly named group that appears on the screen, really hiding completely the identity of the special interests who paid for the ad. And both sides of the political spectrum are guilty of undemocratic sin here. The FCC wonders and worries legitimately about the dangers of placing a bottle of Coke or a tube of toothpaste on an entertainment program without disclosing at the end of it who paid for the product's placement. And that's fine, and I favor that, but shouldn't we be even more concerned when unidentified groups with off-screen agendas are attempting to buy election outcomes? I propose that the FCC quickly determine the extent of its current authority to compel release of what interests are paying for this flood of anonymous political advertising. And if we lack the tools we need to compel disclosure, then let's go ask for them. Reflecting diversity. This is not the place for a disquisition on how poorly America's minorities and other diversity groups are faring on our broadcast media. The fact that people of color own only about 3.6% of full-power commercial television stations pretty much documents the shortfall. I needn't say much more. Diversity goes to how groups are depicted in the media, too often stereotyped and caricatured, and to what roles minorities and women have in owning and managing media companies. The FCC's Diversity Advisory Committee has spent years providing us with specific and targeted recommendations to correct the injustice. And how sad it is that most of these recommendations have not been put to a commission vote. It is time to right this awful wrong. We should be working toward a solution wherein a certain percentage of primetime programming, and I have suggested in the past up to 25%, is locally or independently produced. Public service announcements should also be more localized and more of them aired in prime time too. And PEG channels, public educational and governmental programming, deserve first-class treatment if we're ever going to have a truly first-class media. When I talk about stations, I guess some people would raise the question, well, what do you do about a station that's primarily a music station or something like that? Do you require news of them? And I think what we have to do is have a serious discussion about, I think there's something that every station can do to serve the public interest, whether it's public service announcements or educational things or something like that.